Hello and welcome to today's episode, which deals with research methodology. Let's first understand the term research and methodology separately. This will give us a clear understanding of the basic topic, after which we could go into details. Research comprises creative work undertaken on a systematic basis in order to increase the stock of knowledge, including knowledge of man, culture and society, and the use of this stock of knowledge to devise new application. It is used to establish or confirm facts, reform the results of previous work, solve new or existing problems, support theorems, or develop new theories. A research project may also be an expansion on past work in the field. To test the validity of the instrument, procedures, or experiments, research may replicate elements of prior projects or the projects as a whole. The primary purpose of the basic research as opposed to applied research are documentation, discovery, interpretation, or the research and development (R&D) of methods and systems of the advance of human knowledge. Approaches to research depend on and vary considerably both within and between humanities and sciences. There are several forms of research: scientific, humanities, artistic, economic, social, business, marketing, and practitioner research. Methodology is the systematic, theoretical analysis of the methods applied to a field of study. It comprises of the theoretical analysis of the body of methods and principles associated with a branch of knowledge. Typically, it encompasses concepts such as paradigm, theoretical model, phrases, and quantitative or qualitative techniques. A methodology does not set out to provide solutions. It is, therefore, not the same thing as a method. Instead, it offers the theoretical unpining for understanding which method, set of methods, or so-called best practices can be applied to specific case. For example, to calculate a specific result, it has been defined also as follows. First, the analysis of the principle of methods and rules employed by a discipline. The systematic study of methods that are, can be or have applied within a discipline, that's the second. Third, the study or description of methods. With this, we cover terms. However, after a quick introduction about me, I would get you into the details of the topic. I am Ms. Pallavi Mohan, currently working in an MNC, have worked for 15 plus years in management, marketing, operations and various other departments. Students, it's really important how you research your projects. Some would need qualitative research and some places quantitative. Both are important. Definition of research methodology. The process used to collect information and data for the purpose of making business decisions. The methodology may include publication research, interviews, surveys and other research techniques, and could include both present and historical information. Choosing appropriate research methodologies. It is vital you pick approach, research, methodologies and methods for your thesis. Your research, after all, is what your whole paper will rest on. Choosing qualitative or quantitative research methodology. Research will dictate the kind of research methodologies you use to underpin your work and methods you use to in order to collect data. If you wish to collect quantitative data, you are probably measuring variables and verify existing theories or hypotheses or questioning them. Data is often used to generate new hypotheses based on the results of data collected about different variables. One's colleagues are often much happier about the ability to verify quantitative data, as many people feel safe only with numbers and statistics. However, often collections of statistics and number crunching are not the answer to understanding meanings, beliefs, and experiences which are better understood through qualitative data. Quantitative data, must be remembered, are also collections in accordance with certain research vehicles and underlying research questions. Even the production of number is guided by the kinds of questions asked for the subjects, so is essential subjective, although it appears less so than qualitative research data. Qualitative research, this is carried out when we wish to understand meanings, look at, describe and understand experiences, ideas, beliefs and value, intangibles such as these. Example, an area of study that would benefit from qualitative research would be study of students, learning styles, approach to study, which are described and understood subjectively by students. Using qualitative and qualitative research methodology together. This is common approach and helps you to triangulate, that is, back up one set of findings from one method of data collection underpinned by one methodology with another very different method underpinned by another methodology. For example, you might give out questionnaire, normally quantitative, to gather statistical data collection responses and then back this up and research in more depth by interviewing, normally qualitative, selected numbers of your questionnaire sample. Research methods in belief. Look at the very brief outline of different methods below. Consider which you intend using and whether you could also find it more useful to combine the qualitative with the quantitative. You will be familiar with many of these methods from your work from MA, MSc or BA study already. Qualitative research methods. Interviews. Interviews enable face-to-face discussion with human subjects. If you are going to use interviews, you have to decide whether you will take notes, distracting, tape the interview, accurate but time-consuming, rely on your memory, unwise, or write in their answers can lead to close questioning for this time's sake. If you decide to interview, you will need to draw up an interview schedule of questions which can be either closed or open questions, or a mix of these. Closed questions tend to be closed for asking and receive answers about fixed facts such as name, numbers and so on. They do not require speculation and they tend to produce short answers. With closed questions, you could even give your interviewee a small selection of possible answers from which to choose. If you do this, you will be able to manage the data and quantify the responses quite easily. The household survey and census ask closed questions and often market researchers who stop you in the street do too. You might ask them to dictate how true and for them certain statements was felt to be, and this too can provide both a closed response and one which can be quantified. 30% of those asked never ate rice, while 45% said they did so regularly, at least once a week, and so on. The problem with closed question is that they limit the response the interviewers can give and do not enable them to think deeply or test their real feelings or value. If you ask open questions such as, "What do you think about the increase in traffic?" you could elicit an almost endless number of responses. This would give you a very good idea of a variety of ideas and feelings people will have. It would enable them to think and talk for longer and so show their feelings and views more fully. But it is very difficult to quantify these results. You will find that you will need to read all the comments through and to categorize them after you have received them, or merely report them in a diversity and make general statements or pick out particular comments if they seem to be fit for your purpose. If you decide to use interviews, identify sample, draw up a set of questions that seems appropriate to what you need to find out. Do start with some basic closed questions, name, etc. Don't ask leading questions. Try out with a colleague. Pilot them. Refine the questions so that they are genuinely engaged with your research objective. Contact your interviewees and ask permission. Explain interview and its use. Carry out interview and keep notes, tapes, etc. Transcribe. Thematically analyze results and relate these findings to another from your research methods. Questionnaires. Questionnaires often seems a logical and easy option as a way of collecting information from people. They are actually rather difficult to design, and because of the frequency of their use in all contexts in modern words, the response rate is nearly always going to be low, unless you have ways of making people complete them and hand them to on a spot. And this of course limits your sample. How long the questionnaire can be and kinds of questions asked. As with interviews, you can decide to use closed or open questions and can also offer respondents multiple choice questions from which to choose the statement which mostly nearly describes their response to a statement or item. Their layout is an art from itself because poorly laid out questionnaire respondents tends, for example, the repeat of asking ticking of boxes in the same pattern. If given a choice of responses on a scale 1 to 5, they will usually opt for the middle point. You need to take expert advice in setting up a questionnaire. Ensure that all the information about the respondents which you need to include and filled in, and ensure you actually get them returned. Expecting people to pay to return postal questionnaires is sheer folly, and drawing up a really lengthy questionnaire will also inhibit response rates. You will need to ensure that questions are clear and that you have reliable ways of collecting and managing the data. Setting up the questionnaire that can be ready by an optical mark reader is an excellent idea if you wish to collect large number of responses and analyze them statistically rather than reading each questionnaire and entering data manually. You would find it useful to consult the range of full and excellent research books available. These will deal in much greater depth with the reason for, processes of holding and processes of analyzing data from the variety of research methods available to you. Developing and using a questionnaire, some tips: identify your research questions, identify your sample, draw up a list of appropriate questions and try them out with a colleague, pilot them, ensure questions are well laid out and it is clear how it scrolls them, tick, circle, delete, ensure questions are not leading and confusing, code up the questionnaire so you can analyze it afterwards, gain permission to use questionnaires from your sample, ensure they put their names or numbers on so you can identify them but keep real names confidential, hand them out, post them with reply paid envelopes, ensure you collect it as many as possible, follow up if you get a small return, analyze statistically if possible and or thematically. So, as we understood, research comprises creative work undertaken on a thematic basis in order to increase the stock of knowledge, including knowledge of man, culture and society, and the use of this stock of knowledge to devise new applications. Next, we learn forms of research. Scientific research is a systematic way of gathering data, a harnessing of curiosity. This research provides scientific information and theories for expansion of the nature and the properties of the world. It makes practical application possible. Scientific research is funded by public authorities, by charitable organizations, and by private group, including many companies. Scientific research can be subdivided into different classifications according to their academic and application discipline. Scientific research is widely used criterion for judging the studying of an academic institution such as business schools, but some argue that such is an inaccurate assessment of the institution because the quality of research does not tell about the quality of teaching. These do not necessarily correlate totally. Research in the humanities involve different methods. Humanities scholars usually do not research for the ultimate correct answer to the question, but instead explore the issue and details that surround it. Context is always important, and context can be social, historical, political, cultural or ethnic. An example of research in the humanities is historical research. Historians use primarily sources and other evidence to systematically investigate a topic and then to write histories in the form of accounts of the past. Artistic research, also seen as practice-based research, can take forms, then create work, are considered both the research and the object of research itself. It is debatable body of thought which offers an alternative to purely scientific methods in research in its search for knowledge and truth. Relationship between methodology, theory, paradigm, algorithm and method. The methodology is the general research strategy and outlines the way in which a research project is to be undertaken and, among other things, identify the methods to be used in it. These methods described in the methodology define the means or modes of data collection or sometimes how a specific result is to be calculated. Methodology does not define specific methods, even though much attention is given to the nature and kinds of process to be followed in a particular procedure or to attain an objective. When proper to a study of methodology, can process constitutes a structured generic framework and may therefore be broken down into sub-processes, combined or their sequence changed. A paradigm is similar to a methodology in that it is also constructive framework. In theoretical work, the development of paradigm satisfies most of all of the criteria for methodology. An algorithm, like a paradigm, is also a type of constructive framework, meaning that the construction is a logical rather than a physical array of connected elements. Any description of a means of calculation of a specific result is always a description of a method and never a description of a methodology. It is thus important to avoid using methodology as a synonym for method or body of methods. Doing this shifts it away from its true methodology meaning and reduces its being the producer itself, the set of tools or the instruments that should have been its outcome. A methodology is the design process for carrying out research or the development of a procedure and is not itself an instrument or method or procedure for doing things. Methodology and methods are not interchangeable, but in recent years there has been a tendency to use methodology as a pretentious substitute for the word method. Using methodology as a synonym for methods or set of methods leads to confusion and misinterpretation and undermines the proper analysis that should go into designing research. The process used to collect information and data for the purpose of making business decisions. The methodology may include publication research, interviews, surveys, and other research techniques and could include both present and historical information. It's most important to discuss writing up your work after the research has been done. Writing up your thesis based on your research. This section considers the features of successful research papers for MA and thesis for MPhil, PhD, ED and junior level and looks at how you can turn your work into a successful thesis of merit. Students, let's discuss some hints, tips and rules. The first rule is to write up drafts as you go along throughout your research. Don't leave it all at the end. There will be much to do and you might lose sight of the structure of the whole. If you have presented parts of your work at conferences or published some parts, you have an idea of the kind of contribution your research is making in the field. Leave yourself enough time to ensure any graphs, charts, etc. can be well produced. Write, check it out with friends, colleagues, your supervisor. Edit and edit until it reads well throughout and ensure that the reader can read the language you are using. Do not make it so complex and full of jargons as to be incomprehensible. Be aware of gaps in your argument which are glaring obvious to a reader or examiner but which you yourself could miss easily because you are so close to the work. A poor dissertation or thesis is like a large piece of knitting with holes in it. In a dissertation or a thesis, you concentrate on two main related shapes to the expression of your research and its findings. Telling the story relating back to the proposal and exploring the research journey, the decision and interpretation. This lets a reader see you carried out the research, what decision you made and what boundaries there are to your work, why you chose methods, how you overcame difficulties. Architecture ensuring your conceptual framework, underpin and runs throughout all you do from questions to theories and methodologies, and methods to analyze and interpretations of factual and conceptual findings, and then conclusions. Ensure the reader examiner can see what a contribution to knowledge your thesis or dissertation makes. Submitting. Every scheme has its own rules, so you could be well advised at this stage to look back at the rules on length and layout and the house style in terms of presentation, references, diagrams, bibliographies and appendices. Issues such as how much of your quoted material counts in the words count rarely matter if you are about to produce a work which is going over length. Issues about the quality of diagrams matter if you have limited access to excellent technology and are relying on hand drawings or photocopy. Ensure you know the rules and stick to them. Top tips for writing up. The way in which you write up your work will depend on the type of research you are working in, either a methodological way or in fits and starts as inspiration strikes. Both approaches can be successful, but there are some steps you can take to ensure success. Make sure you maintain a good bibliographical record at all stages to reduce your workload towards the end of your course. Impose on yourself a series of deadlines to meet if you fear that you might leave everything to the last minute, and work for a plan. Even if you have changed this repeatedly, it will give you structure to your workload. Create a personalized timetable that will guide you through the process. Get full publication details of text as you use them. Keep writing synopses of text can be useful way to keep this up. Consider if any your output could be offered for publication. Use drafts of your work regularly to get constructive feedback. With this, we cover research methodology, and it can help in the research you do. This is all for today. Hope you have understood about research methodology. We'll see you again with the next topic. Till then, take care. Bye.